coming out tonight. My name is Eric Smith. I'm the College and Career Counselor here at Newburyport High School, so thank you guys so much for coming out. This is our first ever kind of college planning night that we're doing. We've done some other events, but this is kind of a newer one for us. We're very excited to be able to offer this, not only for Newburyport High School, we opened it up to our area high schools as well too. So for those of you who are not Newburyport High parents or students, thank you guys for coming and hope you enjoy. So this is our quick agenda for tonight. We're going to just kind of go over some college readiness things that we do here at the high school. Talk a little about financial aid from some of our community partners that we work with, and also our college roadmap and kind of the checklist that you should be doing through this process. We have a college panel who's going to be here for our last half from 7 to 8 o'clock and really get your questions answered, hopefully, that you have for tonight. Just a couple of orders of business. If you have, there is a question sheet you should have in front of you. This is kind of like spark your ideas and thoughts if you're not really understanding or knowing what you should be asking. And on the back of that is a QR code. So if you click on that QR code, if you don't feel like getting up and asking a question because we have a mic we'll come around with, feel free to click on that, ask your question electronically, and we will read it out and then have the panel answer it as well. So look through those questions. Hopefully that kind of sparks your thought process for that as well too. I also wanted to mention that I sent out an email yesterday about Revolution Prep that will be running a free SAT practice exam on February 10th. So if you didn't see that email, check your inbox. And that's going to be, again, Saturday, February 10th from 9 to 12. And that's all online because, again, it's a new digital SAT. And then also for those either here at Newburyport or at Triton or at Pentucket, we'll be offering a EF tour to England and Scotland. I'll be running in February of 2025. So if you're interested about that, there's some information out there in the hallway as well. Just going to be a really fun trip, based pretty much on going to colleges and maybe doing 4 or 5 different campus tours while we're over there. So let's get going here. So a little bit about just kind of our high school path and what we're doing here at the high school. So my position started 3 years ago in the College and Career Center. We're really just kind of jumping in, listening to what people wanted and need for our process. But we're really here to help students understand the college and career process. So some of our students are deciding to do a PG year, or doing a gap year. They might go to trades or do work or an internship for a year. We're really supporting them through that process as well as the college process too. So we're here for them no matter what, as we want students to kind of really kind of dive in and encouraging them to understand that this process is not one fits all. Right? Everybody has their own way of going about it. And if you decide to do something that's kind of outside of what everybody's telling you that's the norm, that's cool, that's okay. So we're really here to kind of make that the new experience that our students are going through. So our College and Career Center, we're working with our local and state programs through our MyCap, and really kind of pushing this portrait of a graduate kind of mindset for all of our students K through 12, so that they leave here with a really good plan, whether it's college or career, that they're understanding what they're going to do after graduation. So we started last year with our 6th to 8th grade visiting different college campuses, UMass Lowell, University of New England, and Merrimack College, and then also for our 8th grade, we do a really robust career speaker series, which they'll get to hear from tons of different people, not only in our community, but online as well too, from all over the country. Our curriculum we started embedding this year into our advisory period, which is usually about once a month, and has been going really, really well. We have a phenomenal new program for our freshmen in our peer mentor program that they've really just been raving about. Not only the freshmen, but our mentors themselves are having a really great time being involved in that. And then our other things that we're doing, again, but not limited to, we're prepping our students for our college and career fair, so we're helping them understand how to be successful when they're there. We do our interest profiler through our Naviance system. And we have career speakers coming in. We do a lot of them virtually as well. We had this year an FBI agent and a few other people come in, again, virtually, so kids can jump on and really just hear from them and ask questions. We do a Get Smart About Credit through the Institution for Savings here in Newburyport. We also have some resume building. We get them ready for our junior planning night, which is tonight. We do scholarship information sessions. We have college visits that come all throughout the fall time of the year. We love job shadowing. We have our SMART goals. We talk about being financially literate. We go through that process, talking about the career planning, trades programs. We have the college tour class, which we go over again through advisory, and then college application support. So these are all things that we're embedding through that process so that students kind of, again, 9 through 12 are getting this as we go through. So hopefully those freshmen that are here now, by the time they graduate, will have all of these things through our curriculum. Through the College and Career Center, we're offering all these different types of events, and these are examples that we've been doing this past year. From our college fair, college visits, the career speakers, we do an on-the-spot admissions days where they actually get their admissions decision right here that day in my office in the College of Career, which is pretty fun. Our junior college planning timeline we have online. Tonight is the college planning night. We have future pathways coming up in March. We have our campus tours. We have the EF trip I'll be running. We do a very robust internship program. We are starting a trades pilot program in the Peterson School. We do an ASVAB career assessment. We do a lot of things in our Naviance for assessments and training in there as well. We do tons of college application support for our seniors, juniors at the end of the year, and seniors at the beginning of the year with college essay writing workshops, community partnerships. And we also have a ton of things on our College and Career website. We have social media that we run through Instagram, and then also our Google Classroom, and I'll show some of those things after as well. So I know they're a little small, but we have a lot of different resources. Again, all of these things are on the College and Career website, so I highly encourage you to go there. But all of our students 9 through 12 have an Naviance account, which is our College and Career Readiness platform. We work with College Guidance Network, who we're going to hear from tonight, as well as College Affordable is going to be here and speak about their program. We have an online program, College Aid Pro. The college tour is really cool if you guys are thinking about you want to do some virtual tours. They're really well done, and they are in their 10th or 11th season, I believe now. You can either get it on Amazon Prime or you can go to their website. MIFA and MIFA Pathways, great free resources out there as well, and Revolution Prep, as I already mentioned, does a lot of our test prep for us as well, and you can pay to have additional help if you'd like. We have really great dual enrollment programs with Endicott and with Essex Community College, Southern New Hampshire University, and Salem State. In internships, we have over 100 different community partners that we have our students in internships. It's a 2.5 credit, and they do 75 hours per semester. I see some of our students in here that I know have done them in the past and did a really great job. We also have a great scholarship program, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that go out, which is awesome. And we'll be going over that with our seniors coming up soon. A gap year program, all the information is on the website. For those athletes who are thinking about playing Division 1, 2, or 3 sports in school, we have athletic recruits and process, and we can help them through that, what that's going to mean for them when they go to college. And then our College and Career Center, again, our website has a ton of stuff. If you guys already know, I send out a lot of information, but I usually post everything on there as well. So this is our code for the College and Career Google Classroom that I also put a lot in. The nice part about that is if I post something, then you get an immediate email. And if you don't want it, cool, you can get rid of it. If you want to look at it, that's up to you. And then also College Board and Big Future are another great free resource for information as well too. So again, we're really pushing our portrait of a graduate so that our students are here and learning and graduating and going through the process of these kind of 5 pillars of what we want our students to develop while they're here as students. And then just some of the new opportunities we're going to have for the 2024-25 school year. Our Seacoast Promise Scholarship with Northern Essex is pretty much if they take, I believe, 12 to 15 credits here in dual enrollment, they can go to Northern Essex for that rest of their program for free. Say that again, for free. That's pretty awesome. So they can have their associate's degree for free and then go on to the rest of their other 2 years at another state institution, private institution, whatever they like to do. Innovation Pathways application in right now for our environmental science. We're crossing our fingers that will go through. I'm very excited to have that new program. We have a bunch of new class electives that I encourage you guys to come back and hear from our, February 6th, I believe, for our program study night. The Peterson School, like I said, we're having a pilot trade program with them. Woodworking class, we'll be having students from here at the high school actually going back down to the NOC to do some woodworking. We'll have our college fair in the spring this year. We're doing our spring future event, and then we're building up our arts program with the NEF as well too. So lots of cool things to come this year. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Brian to come up and speak a little about College Affordable. Brian?
There you go. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Aaron. It's pretty impressive, actually. I wish we lived in Newburyport. So my name is Brian Garner. I am the Executive Director of College Affordable. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Aaron asked me to cover a couple topics before then, but obviously I'm most enthusiastic about talking about that. But really more importantly, I have a cold, as you can probably tell, so if I start coughing, I apologize. Most importantly, though, and why I'm really relevant is I'm a parent of three. We have three children, two of which are in college, and our youngest is a daughter, and she's a senior in high school. So I have lived this process. I've seen the challenges with it going back to early in my own big journey, and I'm very passionate about helping families access as much money as that should be available to you as you go through this process. I'm also first generation. I don't know how many folks in the room, first generation going to college. Yeah. So yes, exactly. Congratulations. My parents were both Irish immigrants. Both had 13 kids in their families, which is kind of interesting. So I have lots of aunts and uncles, but I didn't know went to college, so it was a pretty big deal to be able to do that. And lastly, you might find this a little bit interesting, but I'm actually not a financial aid expert. In fact, I just did the FAFSA with our daughter last week, and I think I made a mistake again this year on it. So, but anyway, I'm very, very passionate, as you'll see. So the three things that Aaron asked me to talk to you about. The first is there were really some significant changes that occurred with the FAFSA. What's going on with that form? So I'm going to talk about that. I'll talk a little bit more about what it actually is as well. And then secondly, I'm going to go over a little bit, really high level, the overall financial aid process. And start to, because you're all mostly juniors, right, that are here tonight. And then most importantly, I'm going to talk about College Affordable. What is it? Why should you be excited about it? And you really should be, because it's a pretty amazing program that we have. And I really encourage you to take very detailed notes because there's going to be a quiz at the end. All the terminology. So. Okay, so just for my own benefit, show of hands, how many folks in the room you have a senior right now and you're going through the process? Anybody? I have my glasses on so I can't tell. So. Okay, got it. There we go. But I should talk about this. I was going to jump ahead of it. So this is an unusual year, very, very unusual. There's a lot in the news about what's going on with the FAFSA. I think a lot of it is very, very positive. A little bit of the background of how this all came about is that as part of the COVID relief package, they sort of tucked this thing in there as part of the bargaining legislation, if you will, to make improvements to the FAFSA. And so that's how this all came about. If you've been through the FAFSA process and completed the forms in the past, they're pretty intimidating, they're pretty time consuming. And so this is something that's long overdue, and it's great to see it happen. It's hard, kind of deploying something like this. So first and foremost, what does FAFSA mean? Well, as you can see here, it's an acronym, and we love acronyms, but it stands for the Free Application for Federal Aid. And the changes that are being made, we're really trying to accomplish two things. One is to make it simpler, so there's less reasons why you can't do it. And it's also intended to make it more available monies for students. And so, why is that? You might think that that's not something that's a big deal, but there's this really amazing statistic that's out there, I think it's from 2 years ago now, that 47% of Pell Grant eligible students never completed the form. So about half. And that's it's a little over $3 billion of grants, so free money, that was never accessed. And so you look at that type of statistic, and usually, making sort of broad statements here, the ones that aren't completing are the ones who really need it the most. And so they're trying to solve that problem, they're trying to give away money, they're trying to help with higher access to higher education. And I'll come back to this a little bit more when I talk about College Affordable and how we help with that. And so what were the changes? Has anyone actually done the FAFSA before? Okay. So it's good. The good news is that, there is a lot of progress. There's still some things that are working out. But it has a new layout and design. So it's kind of cool. It's simplified, so it has fewer questions, and I think that's really, really important. Again, in terms of we want more people doing this, not less. And now they have a new way of uploading the taxes, and this was really a problem. I could never figure out why I couldn't load our taxes, and if you couldn't load it, then you're in there trying to key it in, and this is where you're typically making the mistakes. And so, but uploading the taxes now went really well. They've replaced what was previously called the EFC, which stood for Expected Family Contribution, with SAI, which stands for Student Aid Index. And for all intents and purposes, as a parent, they're pretty much the same, okay? But they're a little more sophisticated now with what it actually does. And again, the theme of trying to get more money is part of it as well. The one thing they did, which I'm scratching my head on and still don't understand, is they've changed how they count if you have second kids in college or additional kids in college at the same time. I don't know how they've taken that out. And next year, my son called me today and said, "Dad, I think I'm going to do the fifth-year master's thing at RPI." I said, "I'm going to have 3 kids in college at the same time." What a year to change the FAFSA. So, but anyway, that's basically what the changes were. Will we go that 47% number go up or down? I don't know. We'll see. I hope it gets better. And just the last couple of points on the FAFSA. This year it's all about the changes, but now it's really all about the timing. And how is this going to play itself out? So if you've got a senior, and you've got award letters, the award letters are incomplete because they don't have the FAFSA piece. And we've seen some really interesting things that are being done there. So, the first box is checked here, which is the FAFSA is out. Right? There's just a lot of drama around when it's going to be out, when it's going to be out. Our advice was just be patient with this whole thing. It will work itself out. That's easier said than done when you've got a daughter that's a senior. But it's out. It's the first couple of weeks it was a little unstable. It has gotten a lot better. There's still some glitches and things that it's not perfect. But I wouldn't get caught up in that. I would just trust that it's going to work itself out. But it's January, you need to get it done. So if you're someone that is as a senior and you haven't gotten this done, you got to move it. The good news is it'll take you about 10 or 15 minutes to do. Versus when I did this in the past, it was over an hour or 2 hours sometimes. Then it gets really interesting because then they're going to process all this, and then they're going to send all this information to the colleges, and all these colleges are waiting in terms of figuring out how they can process the information that's coming to them. And the colleges want to fill their seats. They want predictability and get ready for the next year and how they plan their business, if you will. So what that means is that in reality, even if you've got an award letter, so I was all excited, she just got an award letter from this school and that school, and I'm like, where's that, And I actually had one school, Florida, and actually had a FAFSA estimate. I thought that was interesting. But it's going to be more like March or April before you have your final award letters. And then you've just got all these, interesting realities that you have some schools that are FAFSA-only schools, some that are profile-only schools, which I'll talk about what those things mean. And with these changes, it's going to be I think there's going to be a lot of disparity in award letters. And so my advice to any student, I should have a shirt that says this is, you should be appealing. If there's a year to appeal with the college, this is probably it, because there's going to be such potentially wide range of what award letters are going to look like. Okay, so that's it on the FAFSA changes. The second thing that Aaron asked me to talk about is give you an overview of financial aid. Again, I'm not an expert, but this will be very high level, but I think it'll be enough of what the critical concepts are. And when you learn about what we're doing with College Affordable, you see how we make this easy at the right time to go really deep into what piece of the process you really need to understand. But there are certainly some basics. I will admit, it took me a couple of years to understand what's the difference between a scholarship and a grant. And at the end of the day, there really isn't a difference. There is no difference between the two. If you're balanced, the way to think about it. I like to think of these as I'm a parent business person, I guess, and I look at it as a list price, and then there's what you actually pay. And so I like to think of these as the discounting that is done. And we'll talk a little bit more about the buckets that these fall into. The other thing you're going to typically see on an award letter is what you're contributing, to it. So on certain schools will have work study included on the award letter, and then you're going to see loans. And most, usually the typical loan that shows up there is the one that you qualify for by completing the FAFSA form, which are government loans. And so you want to think of those things as what you're going to be sort of contributing your piece of it, if you will. So just to talk a little bit more, and this is where the graphics get really fancy. You'll see my PowerPoint skills at play here. But just sort of staying on the concept of college, of a discount. And discount has a negative connotation to it. I don't mean it to be that way at all. But you've really got two buckets that these will fall into. And the first one, which is on my left, excuse me, laughing is not good, is what they call need-based aid. Okay, and it's kind of what you would think it means, right? So there's a process that you're going to go through, which I'll talk about shortly here, to determine what is your need. The schools want to know, what is your financial situation? And it is predominantly driven by income. And it then also looks at assets, and depending on where school is, and these schools have different ways of going about doing that, particularly the private schools, because it's their money that they're giving to you. They don't have to give it to you. But the first one is the need base, and the second one is on the right here, my right anyway, are merit scholarships. And like the term suggests, these are given out, they're discretionary from the colleges for whatever they see as reasons to give it to those students, right? And the easiest way of thinking about merit is something that's tied to your grade point average, right? How well you did in school may correlate to what you could receive in terms of merit. And on the need-based side, there's basically two. Some schools actually have their own forms as well. Bentley's a great example of this. But there's going to be the two forms. The FAFSA, which I talked about, and the FAFSA is what's used to access the federal money that's out there, either in the form of the Pell Grants or the loans. And then there's another one, and now I completely forget what CSS stands for, but you hear about the CSS profile, where you just hear council typically refer to as a profile, right? And this one is a little more lengthy. And they tend to go a little deeper. They go a little more sort of forensic into your assets, is how I view it anyway. And again, they're using this, it's their money to give to you, so they can ask the questions that they need to in terms of understanding that, and they always want to be fair, of course. And in both cases, when you get to the actual award letter, you're going to see both of these things are going to show up actually on the award letter. Okay, that's the way to think of it. So I'm going to walk through a really basic example because I found this very, very helpful. Award letters are a really important part of the process, the financial side of this. So I've got two just fictitious colleges. So college number one, we'll say, is a private college. We've got lots of fantastic ones of those. And college two, on my right, is what is called typical state school. And we're so fortunate in Massachusetts. We've got such great public colleges. So what I'm going to start out with, and I'll just try and introduce some of these terms. And again, there's a quiz at the end, so you want to make sure you're writing this stuff all down. But there's a cost of attendance, right? That's sort of the list price. That's what you see. So school number one is $75,000. School number two is $35,000. So you look at it and say, wow, it's $45,000. Oh, 40,000. Sorry for that. Go on my calculator. $40,000 difference, right? But when you actually work your way through this, and the award letters, by the way, will never look the same. There's a reason for that. It's actually interesting as to do with antitrust. But there's that SAI that I was mentioning, the student aid index. So you've gone through the process of completing form. We have a great tool that allows you to calculate, use this and estimate this. And in junior year, this is when you want to do this. This is when reality is going to start to hit you because it's probably going to be what you're going to wind up paying or close to it. But let's just say it was $25,000, and then you get to this concept of demonstrated need. Right? And so for college number one, the private is 50, and college number two is 10. And in this particular award, let's just assume they didn't give out any merit scholarships. But they did happen to give out an institutional grant for college one, right? And so it's $25,000. So it was a nice award. And the next two, which you commonly see, are what you qualify for through the FAFSA in terms of loans from the government. Okay, you see that they show up exactly the same amount on both places because the federal government doesn't really care when you go to college. It's making these monies available for you. Subsidized basically just means the interest doesn't accrue until you're out of college, after you've completed. Unsubsidized means the interest is accruing while you're in college. We have a great webinar on loans that you can go learn more about that. And then there's the work study piece. So this particular school will offer work study, and all these schools do this a little bit differently. And then you kind of work it down and you get to like, there's your package, right? So it's like, this is my daughter and all the friends are running around the start, I got a package, what was your package? 25,000, 30,000. And I said, well, what was the list price? What was the cost of attendance? But in any case, if you get to the bottom line, you can see the difference now in these, and this is a pretty plausible scenario. It's $42,500 versus $29,500. So instead of it being a $40,000 difference, at the end of the day, it winds up being a $13,000 difference, right? Where it's a little more expensive, in this case, to go to that school, okay? So I think this is helpful, this will be an important piece of this, and hopefully that's enough of an introduction and overview to what financial aid is. And I did it my way. And I wanted to set the stage for more so to talk about, which is college affordable. The first thing I want to do is express, Brad, do we have anyone here who works at the Institute for Savings? Probably not, but they do a lot of philanthropic things for the community as well. I'm not from the area. But we approached them, and they are making this whole program available free to all the schools that participate. And it's right now, and I'll talk about what we have, but up here, we're obviously Newburyport, we're also Triton as well. And that is our model. So I'll explain how we help you through this whole process, but you never have to pay for it, it's free. Because we get sponsors, we get donors, we do fundraising, it's really the primary thing in my job. And we just come to learn that people aren't, the help that you would have to pay to get to help you through this, it's not going to work for most people. So it has to be that way. And that's what College Affordable was all built on. The good news is that there is a lot of money out there to help you pay for college. There's a lot. And it comes from a lot of different sources. The bad news is that it's difficult to access it. It can be complicated. Okay, the FAFSA form, the CSS profile, as I mentioned. You can even take the example of a local scholarship, right? It's a couple $100 local scholarship from the Elks Club, whatever it is, and maybe they require an application, and then they require a letter of recommendation, and then it's this, and it's like, I just look at my own daughter, right? She's playing sports and taking AP exams, and she's doing this and doing that club, and it's just like, it's hard. It takes time. I think it's a little easier when you have the mentality I have in 2 years, and 3 kids through the process. You're willing to put it in and treat it as a job, right? And this is there's significant. So that's what a little bit of what the bad news is. Now, the way we provide help and what we do is a combination of personalized support. So we've got a team of former financial aid directors at colleges. So Lynette on our team, 15 years of experience. She leads the team. She was at Manual, Suffolk, Maryland. Pamela's on our team. She's bilingual. She speaks Spanish. She spent 15 years at NYU. So these are people that really understand this stuff. And we're partnering with the counselors at the schools because, do they want to know and understand all this stuff? Do you want to talk to them about your private financial information? Right? There's all these things to consider. And then we've got some great self-help tools, and I'll show you what we have that's out there. I wanted to make sure I make the point that what's really powerful about the model that we have is that we're agnostic. There's two things. We're agnostic in terms of who we help. So we're not just focused on one specific demographic, right? Not just on a lower income bracket, as an example. If you need help, and just about everybody needs help with this, right? We'll help you. Right? There's no, and our model is also very flexible in terms of how it's designed for that reason. So I'm a poster child for this, right? I had no idea when I started the process, fill out the forms just as soon as I had to take out a loan, wouldn't let it show up, I couldn't even read them, I read them, I couldn't understand them, and I just assumed I had to take out a loan. So I called a friend of mine, and I've known for Aaron, that's how Aaron and I got connected. I said, Greg, I got to take out a loan, can you help me, how do I do this? And he said, no. He's like, you probably made mistakes on your FAFSA form. I'm like, I did? Yep, it's very common. You probably put asses in the wrong category. And he said you can also do an appeal. I'm like, you can? Who would appeal college thing? And then 2 weeks later, in about 2 hours worth of work, we got more money from every school, including $800 from Boston College. I was picking my wife's alma mater. And we got $120,000 out of RPI. We had the usual circumstances, and it made, but I never would have known that. I would have never known to do those things. And I remember calling Gregory afterwards, like, we gotta help more people. What about the first generation, when I was 18 years old, or, immigration issues, or they've lost a parent, lost a job. All this stuff is very relevant. Colleges want to work with you, they want to help you. Right? You just got to know what's out there, and you got to get the help to go with it. So our program is growing. We're growing very methodically. We were at 8 programs at the end of last year. We're now over 20. We are basically across half the cities and towns now are represented, because we work with a lot of the Catholic schools that draw from different demographics, different parts of the state. But we work with public schools, we work with private schools, Catholic schools, charter schools. We also work with community-based organizations. So we've got a couple of child bereavement programs who have lost a sibling, and they get support for that, and we help them. Be the perfect candidate for the types of things that we can do. But in every case, like I said before, I want to keep re-emphasizing, because it blows me away. I'll do these, talk about the program. It just happened with Malden last week. Aaron called up and said, "Oh yeah, my daughter get an early decision to Boston College. I have no idea I'm going to pay for it. Can you help me? How much it's going to cost me?" I said, "First of all, why did that happen?" That's a whole different story. I said, "But no, it's free. This is fine. And I know those circles don't add up to 20. My daughter pointed that out to me this morning. So I was able to know what I hadn't done already. But anyway, I'm not sure on that. Okay, so I just want to frame how this works at a very basic level. If you come to our next webinar, which I'll talk about, you have a great deep dive into this in a couple weeks from now. So across the top is, you're here tonight because your journey has begun. And I would say, for those of you who have gone through this process before, I guarantee you there's something you didn't know that we can still help you with. So even though you think you've nailed this, probably there's more to learn. There's a lot of opportunity to still help. So take advantage of it. But first, what we do is we connect with the counselor, and we say, "Do you want to do this?" Because if the counselor doesn't have the time, isn't bought into it, the trust factor is so huge. And in all cases, they say yes, right? It's not a question of that. But then we kick this off, and that's why I'm here tonight, right? So in your junior year, the number one thing you want to do is you're building a college list, right? What I like to say is build an affordable college list. Okay, like I said, I think on my poor daughter tonight, but anyway, she's wonderful. But she came home with her first list, and she sat around making a list with her buddies, her friends, and she had BC and Villanova, BC too, and Villanova on the list. And I said, "Elizabeth, forget it. We just know we're not going to make it into those schools, but it's going to be, BC's over 90,000 a year." So she's like, "Really?" And so, Mom still tried to talk her into it, but she didn't, right? We got off on the right foot, and how do we do that? Is because we knew, right? We learned, we sat in on the webinars, we learned how to do this, right? And we decided to leverage some of the tools. So we'll help you figure out what that SAI, we had a great SAI calculator tool that we licensed to help you figure out what that number is, and that's like time to sober up. Like, that's probably what you're going to be looking for. Okay, and then you can start working with Lynette and our team, and what they'll do is say, we know just a lot about where these different colleges come out on based off of what your kids' interests are and where they want to go to school, and help you build, again, an affordable list. Then as you go through the summer and you come into the fall, then you start getting award letters, and we can help you understand them, as I was talking before, and if an appeal might make sense, we can actually help you figure out how to do that. If it gets to a point where you do need to take a loan, we don't partner with anyone. We're agnostic in terms of who we work with. We don't recommend a loan company. We don't recommend scholarships. Or it's sort of there's some businesses out there that are trying to be made off of that, but that's not what we do. But we also help with reapplying for your loan, for your aid. So a lot of people don't know. A lot of students don't know. We have ones that have gone through our program. They're on their own, so to speak. But you have to reapply every year. Financially, the college is going to give it to you. And guess what? If you don't reapply, your bill's going to go up. Is what can happen. So how do we do that? So we've got this program I talked about, special. It starts that we have a 10-part webinar series. MIFA does a great job. I sat through MIFA presentations, but it's 2 hours and it's a lot of information in one night. So the way we've tried to learn from that is ours is, they're 1 hour, they're interactive. You can ask questions that was specific to what that topic is. So the one that was in December was about FAFSA. The one that we just did last week was about awards and appeals. The one that we'll do in April for seniors mostly will be on loans, right? And so on and so forth. And we've got one coming up here in a couple weeks, which we'll talk about. But then we also provide one-on-one help. So you get free one-on-one help as you have needed, and you get unlimited email and texting support. So you can imagine these days, like, the phone's blowing up, right? Because people are trying to get the FAFSA done. But we did it that way so the webinars sort of give you the basic of the topic, and then once you have a question, and if it's personalized, because everyone's situation is, you can get that kind of help, and then you get the unlimited questions, so support through the email, text, and so forth. So that's what we originally set this model up 4 years ago, when we launched this up at Bedford, because we went to school up in St. Bernard's, up in Fitchburg. Then we also help the counselors. So if the counselor has a question, the counselor will see in our office, and they just need to get us on the phone and help them solve that. We do that. We are on site when we can be, so being here tonight is part of what we do, because I feel this is the most, I'm 55 years old, I think I finally figured out my calling, and my backstory, there's a lot to how I sort of wound up here, but one thing I've learned is if the parents don't get that you have this program and don't take the help, right, it's meaningless, right? So you have to take initiative here, and so I think it's really important to be here and evangelize in the way that I am. And the impacts. We now have hundreds of stories, hundreds. We've worked with over 3,000 students now since we first launched this 4 years ago, of all kinds of different impacts. I told you what ours was, this was one example. But they're here. Kids from Leominster want to get in Northeastern, you made a mistake on the status, blah, 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 blah. We're able to get on the phone with them. As parents didn't speak English, we got them, and was able to go to Northeastern. It was another one choice, which is great. Where I want to be a year from now is that we have tons of these same stories here. You're sharing them with the other families, and similarly at Triton as well. This whole subject of impacts, we actually are starting a collaboration with Boston University. Their economics department wants to do a multi-year study in terms of measuring the impacts of what this program has. It's not just how much we were able to help you find and get you off to college, but we want to be able to show you're able to stay in college. And your quality of your education and your life it was better because you didn't have to work 2 jobs, like I did when I was in college. And that you're actually graduating and you didn't fall off because you didn't complete the, it's a big issue. Kids don't graduate because they can't continue to fund it, because they didn't complete the form or other things that happen. So it's something we're actually really excited about, and we'll see where that goes. They actually have 2 professors that are educational economists, and one of them just came off a long-term study for the Biden administration. It's going to be working with us on this, so it's great. So last couple of things, just in terms of getting started. I assume most of you are from Newburyport or from Triton. You guys we've got one-pagers that we can give you. Aaron or Karen has information. But you've got a landing page. It's where kind of all the action is. It's how you sign up for the webinars. It's how you can access the great self-help tools that we have. And when you're in there, it's really important you register with us. So we're not going to remarket your information. In fact, our policy is with the counselors, we want you communicating to the families like, oh, there's an upcoming webinar. Because trust is such a big piece of this and how we work together. But take some time, look at the tools that are there. There are short videos to show you how to use the tools. We'll go deep into them too in our webinar series. And you can always just contact us just to get started. Right? financialaid@collegeaffordable.org. I was at that parent night, that guy Brian was up there ranting on and on, and I'd like some help. I just want to sit down with a junior parent and like to get started. We'll help you. In our webinar series, the next one that's coming up on February 15th at 6:30 is about getting started, and it helps you understand more of what I was talking about tonight. And when you sign up through the landing page that we have, and you click on and sign up for the webinars, you'll automatically get on your schedule, get reminders to go to them, but then you'll automatically get the recordings. Right? My daughter seems to have a basketball game every Thursday night when we have our webinars. And so I'm one of the parents, I've seen them all at this point now, but you get the point. We try and make it as very convenient for you as possible. And Aaron talked about a checklist. This is ours, and you can get a copy of this if you want, or however. But this is, you're here tonight because you care, right? And hopefully you got the theme of an affordable list. But our next 3 webinars, February, March, and then one in May, is really building around this whole affordability side. So it's really kind of the educational side of it. Use some of our tools. The first thing I would do after I sign up, I go do that SEA calculator. Like, that's the number. That's the number you got to get serious about, that you're looking at, that you're dealing with. And it's a very easy to use tool that's in there. If you want the loan tool that's in there is great as well. And all those things should just lead to Andy to send for a call and talk to you guys about this. So, anyway, how did I do that around? So, I'll be here today, and I'm not going to take questions now, but I'm here. My email is brian@collegeaffordable.org, and I am incredibly passionate about this, as hopefully you can tell. And really we want to help you. We want to help you, and the impacts of what we can do together are pretty powerful. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So I'm going to try to get this computer back and running as I ask John to come up. So next we're going to have John Carson, who's our CEO of College Guidance Network. He's going to come up and talk a little about their programming and how we utilize them. Let me see if I can get this back over one here. John, you want to come up and I'll take this to the side.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is John Carson. I'm the founder and CEO of the College Guidance Network. Quick show of hands, how many of you have set up a College Guidance Network roadmap for your junior year? Do you have any? I think we've got one or 3 families in Newburyport to be here. All right, so the call to action I'm going to give to all of you at the end of this is to set up your college roadmap. I'm going to explain what that is in just a second. I'm going to start by just giving you a little bit of kind of the story. So I am a parent of 2 high school kids who one just graduated last year and the other 2 years before that. This story starts in May of 2019 when we barely missed an SAT registration date by about 3 hours. My wife turned to me and said, I just want to play. And we live in Lexington, which is a relatively well-resourced school district, and we just didn't have a plan. And it was unnerving because we knew there was a lot of financial stakes. We knew it was important, we cared about our kid, and we didn't know what we were doing. And so the idea that we set out to do was to build what we kind of thought of as a master class for college guidance. And we started to interview some of the biggest experts in college admissions, financial aid, parent-team dynamics, all the things that go around this. And we started to build a video library. And today, we have 267 of the top experts in the country across 2,300 videos on over 100 topics. And these are people who are college presidents. This is Sal Khan, Malcolm Gladwell, financial aid experts, and so on. And so what we have done is we have built an expert guidance system for parents. And it's essentially what we were looking for. And our tagline is experts for everyone, all in one place. Because as a parent, what we were struggling with, I think this is common for all parents through this process, which is very opaque. There's not, a lot of transparency. We didn't know what to do, when to do it, why to do it, or how to do it. And so that's what we have built. I'm going to show you a 1.5-minute video in a second. We'll give you an overview of this. What we do is essentially provide you with a month-to-month project plan. It has checklists that are personalized to you. There's a setup form in the beginning. There's personalized video playlists, 1 to 3 minute videos from these experts that are relevant to the boxes that you checked when you set up. Key dates, nudges, and reminders so that you don't miss an SAT registration date or a college fair, etc. And it really is trying to help you know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and why. Because our view is what's missing in the system is kind of a roadmap or a GPS for parents. There are big software systems like Naviance, and the way to think of it is a car, and your kid is driving the car, you're in the passenger seat, and the counseling department is in the back seat. And so things like Naviance are the steering wheel. That is how your kid drives the car. There's a lot of tools in there to do list building and to do scholarship search and so on. That is the steering wheel for the car. We are the GPS for the parent. We're the roadmap. So the parent can help the kid. Because thinking a 17-year-old is going to navigate this on their own is making pretty high assumptions there. And so what we built is really the thing that helps you through this process month by month. Now I'm going to sort of give you a little guidance to show you a minute and a half of how this works.
The process is scary and it is intimidating.
We are seeing kids and really struggling across the board.
TGN is a wonderful place to be able to whittle that down into smaller bits.
I really wish I had this the first time around.
Welcome to your college and career roadmap, personalized for your post-secondary journey, powered by over 260 experts in admissions, financial aid, and career planning. You'll start with our quick and easy personalization form. In less than 2 minutes, you'll give us all the information you need to create your roadmap, and you can change it at any time. Your roadmap consists of 4 sections. The homepage gives you a snapshot of where you are and what you need to do next. The current checklist items, upcoming key dates, and links to register for upcoming live programs with top national experts.
It is hard as an entrepreneur to put yourself out there because most great things are stupid when you figure it out. If they weren't, everyone would be doing it.
I'm not afraid of ChatGPT, right? I think we should bring technology into this, and technology can absolutely help us.
The key dates page is there to make sure you don't miss any important deadlines. The checklist spans your 4 years in high school, keeping you on track with what you need to do, when you need to do it, and expert-led videos on how to do it right. Want more expert content? The resources page offers a playlist curated to align with your interests and goals, along with our toolbox of carefully chosen resources from across the web. We vetted them so you don't have to. No misinformation, no information overload. Just starting your post-secondary journey? We've got you covered with starter packs to give you a quick and easy overview on dozens of key topics. For our students, Next Gen Journeys is a series of videos from young professionals just out of college, designed to inspire, offer their tips, and show that everyone has challenges and your dreams are possible. Experts for everyone, all in one place, and that place is your college and career roadmap.
If I could spread the words to every other school and give it to them, that would be my Christmas gift for all public schools here in Massachusetts would be that, have that jump on the doorstep and say Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, whatever it might be.
So that's a quick overview of how this works. It literally takes 1 to 2 minutes to set up. I think afterwards we'll probably have some sort of email that will go out to give folks a link so that they can, so that you can sign up. And one last thing I would sort of offer out to the group is we're just a few years old, and so we are very hungry to get parent feedback on the product. So if any of you would be interested in participating in a focus group in which we can show you features in the product and get your feedback, we can also tell you what's coming in our kind of product improvement. You can reach me at John, Jon, at collegeguidancenetwork.com. So I hope to look forward to seeing you in the roadmap system. It's so good that even Sal Khan's 9th grader has got a roadmap now. So thank you very much.
thank you, Brian and John. Really appreciate you guys being here. All right, so we're now going to move into our college panel. So I'm going to ask our wonderful panelists to come up and join us. It'll take a minute. So if you need to run to the bathroom, feel free to do that. But we'll get started in just a few minutes once they come up. Just so you guys know, the Media Hub is here. They are recording this, so we're very excited for them to be here. So they'll get that to us in a couple of weeks, and we'll be emailing it out to you as well. So you'll have the PowerPoint and all the information from tonight. I'll post that on the website, and I'll send you guys an email with a link to that as well too. And I'll make sure everybody's emails and things are in there as well, so you can have all the info from tonight that you need. So, I just want to say another thing for the info sheet that you have. Again, on the back is the QR code. So if you don't feel comfortable raising your hand or asking a question, please just put it in there, and we will ask it for you, for our panelists. It can be a specific question or it can be a general question, and we'll ask it. I do kind of want to keep this fun and organic. As Brian said, like this is you're starting your future path as you go through this, and we're really excited that you guys are here to do that. I have plenty of questions. I've worked with these colleagues here for many years, so we were talking before this about who was going to kind of talk about what. But really, if you have specific questions, you either want to ask them, please feel free to do that. I want to first just start off with each of our panelists is going to introduce themselves, what college, university they work at and or have worked at in the past, and then kind of just talk about maybe some trends and things that they're seeing recently in the admissions world. So, Dari, you're here, and I'm going to start with you first.
Okay, hello everybody, how are we doing? Okay, I'm going to need a little bit more spirit than that. How are we doing tonight? There we go. Hi, so my name is Dari Torres. I use he, him pronouns. I'm currently at Miami University in Ohio. I always have to make sure that I say Ohio because people always think I'm in Florida. So I've been in admissions now for a little bit over 10 years. I started off at Fisher College in Boston. After that, I spent some time up at King State. And then after that, I was at Merrimack College for a couple of years, and I just made the transition over to Miami as a regional recruiter up here in New England. So.
Hello, Rachel Mason, Associate Director of First Year Recruitment at UMass Amherst, also an unapologetically enthusiastic alum. Is there anybody in the house? No alums? Oh, that's okay. There we go. There's some there. We have been in higher ed admissions for going on 24 years. Just really happy to be here, especially with this panel full of amazing experts.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe DiCarlo. I'm the Dean of Enrollment and Director of Admissions at Worcester State University. I'm in my 21st year in college admissions. I started out at my alma mater, Assumption College. Then I worked my way over to WPI. I spent some time at Northeastern University, and I've been at Worcester State for the last 11 years.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shayna Eddy. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Framingham State University. I've been in the admissions world now for 24 years, and actually I've been at Framingham State for 24 years, which is very unusual. Any alums out there? That's all right. Very excited to be here this evening and talk to you a little bit more about the college process.
Myself as well, so I know most of these people because I did admissions for 12 years. I was on panels or traveled or did something with them as well. I worked at Curry College and also UMass Lowell, so I'll be answering any questions that people might have from that, especially from the Curry College perspective, as they do have some learning support programs and things that people might have questions on. We can definitely talk about that. But as I said, I kind of want to try and keep this as organic as we can, so if anybody has questions, please just raise your hand and we can come out. We have Mr. S here, who's our counselor intern, who can grab a mic and can come, or again, put it into the chat and get it in there by using that QR code. Anybody questions right off the bat that they're like, man, I came here because I wanted to ask anything? Yeah?
Do you fill out the FAFSA form asking for a list of colleges to send college were accepted, or
Anybody want to take it or?
do I need an acceptance letter from college?
No, you do not need an acceptance letter, so I would say, I would send it out to the schools that your child plans on applying to. We actually receive a number of FAFSAs each year, and we do a lot of cross-check with our financial aid team to find out students who submit FAFSAs but maybe not have submitted an application. So we'll reach out to the student reminding them, you know, we received your FAFSA, but we need that application, right, to render a decision. Financial aid packages, though, are not awarded until a student is accepted. But in terms of sending that FAFSA, you want to send those over to all schools before the student's been accepted.
Actually, a good question, Brian, maybe you can answer. With the new FAFSA, is it still 10? Is it a slot of 10 for the students to put something?
It's not 20.
It's 20, okay, great.
20, yeah.
So when you're going in to fill out, you'll have 20 different colleges that you could put in if you needed to. Hopefully, average of our students is 8 to 12, so there should be plenty of spots. Or for those who have a few more, that'll make it a little bit easier with that process. That's great to hear. Good. Anybody else? All right, cool. I have, if you think of them, again, please let us know. We can come around or put them into the chat. So my first question, I'm going to ask Rachel. What stands out when you're receiving an application in your application pool? And what's the well-rounded, something the student should be striving for? What role does the resume play in the ability of that student to be admitted?
Absolutely, and I apologize in advance. My first response is going to be, it depends. And you're going to hear that a lot. We are all going to talk about the holistic application process and review, which means that we are taking into account all aspects of the application. Everything that we require is important. No one piece is more important than another. For a student who is academically strong, that may lead their application. For other students who are very involved in community and student affairs, and that their activities will lead that piece of it. Their essay may lead their application if they have extenuating circumstances that really allow us to understand an individual better. What I hope is that every student is well-rounded. So yes, application in terms of the GPA, academics, the courses that you've taken have challenged you, that the activities reflect what you're interested in, that your essay demonstrates that you're academically able, but also your interest in the individual institution is important. Overall, you should be living your high school experience to be a good high school student. What we're looking for are great high school students, not necessarily great college applicants, right? Don't try and press yourself into what you expect us to be looking for. Instead, just be true to yourself and what you're interested in academics, extracurricular, community, and otherwise.
Getting a lot of good head nods up here, so that's good. Dara, you're next. What role does the student's transcript play in the admissions process? And how do you handle treating those as far as the weighted GPA 4.0 scale, and does that number get recalculated?
I think the important piece of it all is that every single school is gonna see transcripts completely different. I think that more and more I'm seeing schools that, especially with me, I think I have a very unique experience having worked at 4 different schools, and every single school has been completely different on how they look at the transcript. But the great thing of it all is that when we're looking at transcripts, we're looking at the core curriculum of those courses. So we're looking at what classes you've taken, have you challenged yourself, but we're also seeing it in the content of your school. So we're not comparing, for example, one school to another, we're comparing all the school students within that school, and we're looking at what opportunities are available for you. A lot of schools will recalculate the GPA, so we'll look at the academics, but we'll take those core classes, so we'll look at the math, the sciences, the history, and all those courses, depending on the state. Certain ones in the state school here, I know that you'll each have a certain number of courses, but again, it's completely different depending on by state. So with us in Ohio, it's a little bit different on the courses that we're looking at in regards to admission and that process, in the process.
Awesome, thank you. Sheena? All right, so campus visits, right? What steps do the students take to get prospective students and their families on campus? What are you guys doing to get them there, whether it's summer or fall?
Absolutely. So I personally think the campus visit is probably the most important piece of the college process. So you are in such a great location in terms of just so many different opportunities right in your own backyard. And the best thing to do is really to get on the websites and see what's available. So I know, for example, this spring, we have a spring open house taking place, March 9th. If anyone would like to come on down and take a look. But I know many campuses offer spring open houses, different presentations or different tour opportunities during April school vacation week and February school vacation week, which, remember, the colleges are on a different schedule, right? So we are in session during those times. Typically, there's usually a week in March where most colleges will shut down for spring break. But for the most part, we do offer, tours, weekday tours, weekend tours, some different tours you can sit in a class. So it really depends on the campus and what their opportunities, that they're going to provide you with. But get on those websites, and I will say, spring is a great time to come take a look around, because once fall comes, then you're worried about those applications, right? So if you have an idea in the spring in terms of what campuses you like, the size of the campus, I think spring is a great time to come take a look. But also fall, we all have, I think every college and university has fall open houses to take advantage of. But definitely start looking at your schools, going on those websites, and really just kind of planning and have fun with it, right? These tours, you get to eat in the dining halls. Usually you'll get a swag bag. So make sure you're having fun with it. When you're taking a campus tour, I always tell students, can you picture yourself here, right? So when you're going by the classrooms, can you picture yourself sitting there and doing well? Can you picture yourself sitting out in the Adirondack chairs in front of May Hall at Framingham State? Can you picture yourself in the campus centers, right? And when you take a look around too, you may go to a school that is just a little overwhelming for you, right? And embrace that, right? That is okay. And kind of speaking to the parents a little bit, give your son and daughters time to really process how they're feeling, right? I know it's get in the car and like, what did you think? It may take them a little bit of time to really process in terms of, is this going to be a good fit for them? Because not only are we seeking you to come to our campus, but we're hoping, you're going to choose us, right? And we want it to be a good fit. At the end of the day, we're all counselors, and we all have a lot of years here. We want to make sure it's a good fit. So definitely take that time to go visit the schools. I could go on.
No, I think one of the things we talk about with our students is kind of that gut feelings that she was talking about, right? When your student gets on that campus, they're either going to feel like, oh, I can see myself here, or just something about it. And as much as you might want to push somebody to go there, like I always go with that gut feeling, right? So having those conversations after you've taken your tour as well. You got a question?
A question about the advanced versus regular courses. What if the student doesn't do so well in advanced placement and might do better in regular grade course?
Yeah, that's actually my question sheet, because that's my question for Joe. Is how does your college university handle the early action, the enrollment, AP, and scores needed for the AP scores, but also like how are you looking at those things?
Yeah, so I kind of always approach this in sort of a two-pronged approach, right? There's when it comes to the students thinking about challenging themselves with more rigorous courses, right? Whether they be, if you're typically in standard college prep, you're thinking about taking some honors courses or some AP courses or dual enrollment courses. It should be for the right reasons, and that's because you feel prepared that you can take on the additional work, right? So I think all of us would say we would like to see an A, or good grades no matter what courses you're taking. So you shouldn't necessarily overextend yourself at the risk of either not getting enjoyment out of the class or at the risk of your academic performance. So it's really kind of challenge by choice, but I think we're also sensitive to the fact that some students just by taking on AP or dual enrollment courses are going to jeopardize or risk their ability to do well in that class, which would then have a negative impact on their GPA. So you should really challenge yourself appropriately. If you feel like you can handle the more rigorous courses, then sign up and take some rigor. But maybe not necessarily jump into the deep end, right away too. So that's a good conversation to have with your school counselor, because they're gonna, and perhaps some of your teachers as well, because they're gonna be the ones that are best gonna be able to guide you with that, right? And it's kind of like what Rachel was talking about in terms of that well-rounded high school experience. We don't necessarily want to see students that are so consumed in their academics because they're taking a full, load of AP and honors and dual enrollment courses, where then they're overextended and they can't commit to social activities or just having an enjoyable high school experience, right? So you have to know yourself, you have to know what you can handle, and I think strike that balance between challenging yourself appropriately but not overextending yourself, where you either risk your ability to perform well in those classes, or you just risk your overall well-being because you overextended yourself too much and you're too stressed. In terms of the admissions process, I think we're all going to say that we like to see students that challenge themselves, but again, appropriately for that student. For students that take AP courses or honors courses, it could be helpful in the admissions process, particularly for schools that do recalculate. I know at Worcester State we do recalculate students, their GPAs off their transcript, and you can earn additional weighting for those courses. So for instance, you could earn an additional half-point weight or a full point weight for an AP class, half point for an honors class. So it can help a student, if you look at a 4.0 weighted scale, students are straight A student, but they've taken honors and AP courses, they're going to get additional weighting for that rigor, so their GPA could actually be over a 4.0. So it could be beneficial in the admissions process because you're positioning yourself well, especially for a selective college admission with helping your GPA, but it's also helping your academic preparation to move on to a 4-year bachelor's degree program as well. There's some benefits, particularly around AP and dual enrollment, because you could earn potential college credit if the student completes the AP exam, or obviously with dual enrollment, earning college credit. So that could look favorable in the admission process, but then also could potentially help some students with coming into college with some advanced standing because they're earning college level credit through either the AP courses that they've completed or the dual enrollment courses that they've completed as well.
Thanks, Joe. So one of the things that we're starting to do here at Newburyport is really kind of starting to prepare our students for this journey, and that's why we're having nights like tonight. We'll be meeting with our juniors in the next couple of months as we go through the second semester, really kind of getting them ready for that part so that, like Joe was just saying, that they can enjoy senior year, right? That they're not super stressed as much as they can, so that when they're coming back after the summer, they're really just kind of finalizing and tweaking and doing things for the application. We're going to do some essay reviews and writing workshops coming this spring. We're going to be doing college application and the Common App, kind of just workshops and sessions. So we really have a lot. So my goal as your college and career counselor here is to have students really go into the summer with their application pretty much almost done, finalizing it will happen later. Their essay pretty much either first draft or a little more done. And so they're really visiting campuses, doing their college search and finalizing that list to that 8 to 12 student colleges. So when they come back, it's our, talking to the counselors and myself, making sure their list makes sense, not only for the financial part of it, but also just where they want to be, and really kind of then applying and going through that, not all of a sudden, October and November, like, hey, I'm going to submit, I haven't really done anything else, right? We want to make sure that they're prepared for that. Anybody else with a question before we? All right, and we have one that came in. You want to ask that question?
One of the questions is, how accurate are tuition?
Ready?
So this is where we financial aid expertise. I come from, I think Shayna, probably Rachel, and I come from a little bit of a different perspective, only because we're public universities. So our costs are pretty transparent. And there's a bit of a difference between, whether you're a Massachusetts resident or a non-Massachusetts resident. And so I would like to think that, our tuition fees that are out there is what it is. The tuition alone is set by the state. So the calculator is pretty much similar to what it's going to be. Where it starts to get a little bit tricky is, when you are trying to project, what your estimated financial aid package might be or what you might get for scholarship assistance. It's all going to be averages. So I think there is some, it's a useful tool. But what happens is it's one tool on a website, but it can be very individualized pertaining to your family circumstances, right? Because And every school is going to leverage their calculator based upon what they're able to offer for financial assistance. So a school like Worcester State, I mean, we're pretty much offering need-based financial aid. We have a very limited amount of merit scholarships or institutional aid that we're able to offer students, but our costs are pretty low, right? So we're about $12,000 for an Massachusetts resident to come to Worcester State if they were commuting, around $22,000 if you live on campus. So that's about a third of what it might be for a private university. So pretty straightforward, and most of our financial assistance is going to come in the form of need-based aid. Now, private universities might have resources where they can kick in more in terms of scholarships, institutional need-based financial aid, institutional non-need-based financial aid, and then federal financial aid. So there's a lot more variables that could impact that number that you have to pay, which could sort of be influenced in the calculation that you're getting on their website. So it's a good tool to, I think, to provide a baseline, but I wouldn't necessarily write off a school based upon what you're just seeing off the calculator. That's a good good sense, and I think it's important for families to have that. Just like you have your schools in terms of your likelihood to get admitted, but families should also have the diversity of schools in terms of financial costs, right? So schools that might be a little bit more of a reach financially, schools that are a little bit more affordable for the family. I think that can be a good tool, but the story shouldn't end based upon that calculation. It's probably worth having a little bit more of an in-depth conversation with either the admissions staff or allowing us to help you put you in contact with some of our financial aid colleagues so that they can help you better understand the cost breakdown and what you might be able to contribute towards the overall cost as well.
Well, we're also, the big thing that I've experienced over my years in admission, especially when I worked, because now Miami University is a public institution. People like Miami, we're a public institution, but I used to work at Merrimack before, and I was at Merrimack for the majority of my time in the field, and I think that what Joe was saying is so important. Reaching out to the schools, having those conversations. But I think a lot of times families have that sticker shock of, whoa, this school is like 70, 80, like somebody was saying earlier, 90,000. But what can we do to help mitigate that cost? And I think that as you're kind of looking at schools, kind of having conversations with them and with those admission representatives and see what type of different opportunities they have. And certain schools have specific scholarships that you're able to apply for on top of whatever opportunities the institution is giving. So that's something that you want to also keep in mind. And also, for example, at Miami, one thing that we're doing to attract students that come from out of state is that we have what's called the Miami Tuition Promise, which means tuition fees, room and board are going to stay the same for all 4 years. So it allows families to lock in that rate their freshman year and know what's going to cost over the course of the 4 years. So I think it's very important that as you're kind of looking at schools, to kind of look at every single school, because every single one is going to have something completely different that they're going to be offering.
And as Brian mentioned, College Affordable has their SAI tool, right, that will give you a pretty good idea of that same kind of cost as well. So again, we're working with these partners and things to be able to give you guys more of those tools to use. And starting now, right, get that process started as you go through. Awesome. All right, so Rachel, back to you. Let's see. How many letters of recommendation do you really want and or need?
Absolutely. In all parts of the application process, take us at our word. We really are trying to be as transparent as possible. So, for example, at UMass Amherst, required numbers of recommendation are 1, 2, 3. If you submit 1, that's fine. We're not going to penalize you for that. If you submit 3, that's great. We're going to read all 3 of those letters of recommendation. If you submit 4, no. It's just, I will include it in the application, but we're not going to read it. But so trust us in that regard, right? I certainly think that going with the kind of Goldilocks, 2 is great. I love that number, but 3 would be appropriate for you. And that's fine. But know that if we state what is required, again, 1 to 3, and you only submit 1, you're not going to penalize you for that. There is no hidden context, underlying message. You have to hit, you have to use all the word, number, content for your essay. You don't have to fill everything out to the utmost. If you can provide the information in one or two letters of recommendation, that's great. If you have a third person you want to include, that's fantastic. But do take us at our word. If we require it, it needs to be there. We're not going to penalize you for not going above and beyond that.
Shayna, if students apply early action for that deadline, do senior grades get factored into that decision, and what type of student should be applying early?
Absolutely. So this is actually just a reminder, and I know Erin has gone over all this, but deadlines are so important, right? So early action, early decision, as you're looking at schools, really paying attention to. I will say for early action, I think we've probably already gone over, but early action is a non-binding agreement. It just allows you to apply to the schools a little bit earlier. In terms of senior year grades at Framingham State, our early action decision is November 15th. And we guarantee decisions to students by December 15th, but we are releasing decisions right through. So we actually start going out decision letters usually in October. So for, senior year grades usually aren't available. We do want to see your senior schedule, but it's not necessarily a requirement for early action. That being said, if a student is not doing well up through their junior year, we may decide to roll their application to regular decision and actually ask for those first or second quarter grades senior year. It just because you apply to a school does not guarantee, admission there. And a lot of schools I know have the option, especially during early action, to roll students to that regular decision and ask for first quarter grades. But if you're doing well, you have a solid junior year and solid academic curriculum, I would really encourage students to apply early action because, again, it just allows you to get that decision a little bit earlier and alleviate some of the stress that I'm sure households are feeling. But you still have the opportunity to submit that deposit by May 1st and receive other decision letters, receive those financial aid packages, scholarships and all of that, and really make that appropriate decision by that May 1st.
And one of the things we'll do with your students as well, and students are going to be doing this with you, is making sure that Naviance has that information correctly, right? So that we're all on the same page, right? So that by doing that in Naviance, you're telling us, as your counselors and your teachers for the recommendation, and then the colleges themselves for when you're actually wanting to apply. So we go over all that with you and make sure that the date that you put down is correct. If we see 5 early decisions on there, we're kind of like, we should have a conversation about this, right? Which one did you mean, or did you not mean to do that and not understand it? So we really will help you. So don't hear all this and get all forget. I promise we'll help you through that process. So we have a couple questions coming in, but I wanted to ask one to Dowry before we get to that. Dowry, do you want to read essays now? Because again, this class coming in is that we're in either 8th grade or 7th grade, maybe when COVID started. So do you want to read essays about COVID, and if so, what's a great topic or a good topic?
No. The reason I say that is because the thing about your essay, it has to be your story. This is the time for you as a student, for you to shine, for you to brag about yourself, for you to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. As a mission representative, when we're reading your application, yes, we're seeing your academics, we're seeing the curriculum, we're also seeing things that you've been involved in, you let us a recommendation, but the essay really truly gives us a sense of who you are as a student. That's why I always try to convince students to make sure that you're writing the essay that's going to tell us your story. Think differently, think outside the box, because at the end of the day, as an admission representative, I read anywhere between about 40 to 50 applications a day, and those students, when I read the essay that I put down, I'm like, wow, I want that student to come to Miami. A lot of times that does make a difference in regards to when we're reading your application. That's why I always tell students, and students will sometimes say, but Donnie, there's nothing very unique about me. I'm just your plain Jane, from so-and-so school, there's nothing unique about me. And I always say, no, there is something unique about you. There's something that you're interested in, there's something that you're passionate about, there's something that you're looking for to do in life. And at the end of the day, this is a time for you to tell us all these things, because at the end of the day, how my college was saying, we're looking at students that are going to come to our schools, but are also going to be very involved. They're going to take advantage of all the opportunities that are available. And a lot of times the essay just gives us that kind of general sense of who you are as a student. Also, one thing that I would say is that your essay, once you start writing it this year, is not, over the summer, it's not gonna, your first draft is not gonna be your final draft. It's not, you know, I'm very fortunate. This year, my niece is actually a senior in high school, and I'm helping her through this whole process of admission. And I went with her, we did like about 10 different, we went through 10 different rough drafts until she figured out exactly what she wanted to write about. And I think that's what's so important, is that utilize the resources that are available for you as you're kind of looking at those, as you're kind of writing your essays, but also make sure that you're writing it yourself. We know when, you know, families have hired somebody or you're using what you're not supposed to, we know it, and we see it in the application that the kind of doesn't do a good service to the student. So that's why I always say, because as admission representative, we don't think that you're Shakespeare. We're not expecting you to be like perfect in the essay, but really being genuinely honest is going to showcase who you really are in the process.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Jesser, want to ask a question?
It's on there. One of the questions is, what are your thoughts on disclosing a disability within a college application?
I'm going to think on first, and I'll let you guys think on this when else come. As myself,
I would value credential. My first 18 years were at Landmark College and Beacon College.
All right, I'll go after.
My response is it depends on the individual student. It's important to provide context. So if disclosing your disability provides context for your transcript, then absolutely include it in that information. My other piece of it is if an institution is unwelcoming of neurodivergent students, then that's not where you want to be. So if you're concerned that you're going to be discriminated against because of that disclosure, that's probably not the right institution for you. There are, if not all institutions, are really committed to diversity, and that includes neurodiversity.
I was going to say it's going to be very similar in that it depends also on what you're considering disabilities. People who have physical disabilities versus learning disability, right? So you want to make sure that we understand what that is. And either way, I'm a full advocate of self-disclosing. It is a piece of who you are, right? It's a piece of who you are as a person and as a learner, and we want to make sure that the school is going to be able to support you through that, but also understands, like Albert just said, that's a piece of who you are, right? We want to make sure that's in there. So it doesn't mean you have to write your essay about it. It could be that you self-disclose it in an additional piece to the application through an email. Like it could be something that you have to the counselor to make sure that they talk about, right? So we can talk about that and which the best way to put it into your application and which makes sense. But I'm a huge advocate of self-advocating for yourself, and that means putting that stuff forward so that you get what you need when you're at the college level. And again, I tell my students this all the time, I'm a proud dyslexic. I went to Curry College because they have the support programs, so there are programs out there that are there for students outside the classroom, right? Everybody does the same learning in the classroom, but they get additional support outside. Every college university has a different thing on their office they might call disability services or special support services, whatever they have. Every college has to have that. But some schools just have better supports than others, right? Or some have additional programs we even have to pay additional for, where you get one-on-one support. So it does depend on what you're looking for and whatever your disability might be.
Yeah. How can you strengthen your application if you have low grades or kind of on the line of the GPA of what colleges are expecting?
So I would say definitely, for junior year, definitely want to put in that effort now and really try to, you still have time to sort of turn it around a little bit, right? So we know that there's going to be a trend, right? Students coming in typically first year is usually the hardest year for, in terms of transition into high school. And we know that those grades are probably not going to be as strong as, say, junior and senior grades. So, now's the time to really buckle down and know, as I say to my own kids, this is your job, right? This is your job. Your job is to do well. And if you want to have as many opportunities available to you your senior year, this is what you need to do. You need to put in that work, right? And so the other thing, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about demonstrated interest, But, you know, if you are concerned about your grades and your transcript, get in contact with the schools, right? So, you know, you have this panel here of friendly faces, and I think that's really important for families to understand. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from students. So students sitting out there, we want to hear from you. You're the one applying to school. So we want to hear from you. And if it's having a meeting with your admissions counselor and kind of talking about your concerns, take the time to do that, right? All of my counselors have individual appointments. You can talk to them over the phone. You can set up a Zoom meeting with them. Sometimes families will join in on that. So there's definitely ways to sort of reach out, but you know, you still have time. It's junior year. You still have time to turn that ship around a little bit and do well. But just know too, that might not be, you know, you may not be applying early action, right? You may want to see those senior year grades. So just keep that in mind as well. And know that there's a school for everyone. As we were talking about just different levels of schools, know that there is a spot for everyone. It may not be your number one choice, but sometimes that number two choice actually ends up being the best choice.
So Shane just brought up demonstrated interest, which is something we all wanted to talk about, and that when you are going for a tour on campus, or you come to the college fair and you speak to one of the representatives, and you fill out an inquiry card, or you go online and you take their virtual tour, anything that you're doing, you're demonstrating that interest, right? So the more you can do, the more helpful. Some schools track that, some schools don't. Some schools see it, but it's not a big part of their application process. So what I wanted to ask our panelists is that, do you have demonstrated interest and does it fall into your application process?
So at Miami, we do track demonstrated interest with us, specifically with us as an office. We have 9 regions across the U.S. And specifically with me being the regional for New England, when we're looking at students and we're looking at different areas where we're, different high schools that we're going to, really showing demonstrative interest from the students really showcases why we should be going there and all that. But then also at the same time where some of our programs could be capped at certain situations, because again, some programs with us, like for example, engineering, business, nursing are extremely competitive with us. So when we're having those conversations where, okay, so depending on what our goals are, we're looking at those students that have demonstrated a lot of interest. And it could be also as well too, where we're looking at students in regular admission, okay, what are those students that have shown that they're really interested in Miami? Which are those students that have met with Daddy on the road, that have come down to campus, that have set up an interview, and a lot of times those students will be looked at a little bit differently. Not saying that Susan is not going to get in, but again, with a lot of schools, it's very important that if you are really interested in that institution, that you send out emails and get in contact with that admission representative, because that also admission representative is going to be also your best advocate when it comes to selectivity in certain institutions. Because certain institutions, as we know, some are more selective than others, and especially when those schools are extremely selective, you want to make sure that you're showing that you're really interested. And then a lot of schools will see demonstrative interest also by looking at the emails. You know, a lot of us have CRM systems, so we know when we send you emails, we know when you opened it. We also know how long you spend in them, which is kind of crazy to think that we see that. But it also helps us kind of develop plans in place to see what students are looking at and what type of information we should be sending out to students. So I think that it's very important that for those schools that you're really interested in, to make sure that you're keeping in contact with them as you're kind of going through the whole process of admission.
Yes, it's kind of a micro moment. We live in a digital age. So every time you interact with us, whether it be registering for online events, in-person events, emails, and so forth, it is captured. Is that a factor in the admissions decision? No. Is it there? Yes. So then we go back to look at wait lists and so on and so forth. Could that be a factor? Yes, absolutely, possibly. What I encourage though is to make sure that it's quality interactions. Just as much as you could indicate to us how interested you are in the institution, you could also irritate us. You're individuals that have to respond to every email that comes in. And if you're simply thanking me for doing a good job on the panel tonight, that's fantastic, that's wonderful, I'm good, I don't need an email that I get to then respond to. So again, take us at our words, yes, that information is captured, it is not part of the admissions process in terms of not measure administrative interest.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm curious about your interest, but that pretty much is where it ends.
Same thing, Les.
Maybe another question?
Yeah. Test optional colleges. Do you guys really care about testing? If it says, like, if you don't have to submit a test, will that affect the application on the applicant if they do not submit a test score if it is optional?
So I will tell you at Framingham State, we are test optional. We were test optional before COVID. I know, I think 90% of the schools went test optional during COVID. But we have been test optional, so it is your choice whether or not you get those scores. You will not be penalized. Again, if you choose not to submit them, that is perfectly fine. We will, move along with the application, and that really truly are test optional. It is up to you.
What do you think? Test optional? Good.
For another year.
Another year, okay. At least another year.
Yeah, we are test optional. For as long the state university system has decided for all of us that we're test optional forever. That just means that until someone changes their mind. But luckily, our ship turns very slowly. But we can say that the reason that we're test optional is that we have seen the outcomes. That the students who do not submit scores do as well, if not better, than their their counterparts. The majority of our students do not submit scores. The majority of students who are accepted did not submit scores. The majority of students getting merit scholarships and into honors college did not submit scores. And if I can be off color, and I'm sorry, my colleagues have all heard this before. I compare it to blind dating. We go on our first date, you tell me your name, what you do for a living, maybe how many siblings you have, and so on and so forth. If you suddenly drop the bomb what your credit score is, I'm going to pay attention. I will not forget it. It will impact whether or not we see each other again, and higher is better. So if you are at all insecure about your SAT score, don't submit it. Just don't. We're not going to penalize you. As already said, we are reading 40, 50, 60 applications a day. We do not have the time to think about why you consider those scores. It was optional. You didn't opt in. End of story.
And with us at Miami, Ohio is a very interesting state. I love it. I've been there for a year only. But I would say that they're waiting one extra year, just like my colleague was saying, to get 4 years of data being test optional before we fully go test optional. But one thing I would like to say is that you also have to think about certain schools. Like, for example, when I used to work at Keene State, they require the test scores for scholarshiping. So that's something you also want to keep in mind as well, too, where you look at schools, is that asking that question, am I required to submit the scores to get funding? Something that I would like to point out with one of my previous schools.
And there are some schools who also require for these maybe specialty programs. Some require for nursing or for engineering. So although they might be test optional overall, there might be a couple caveats with that too. So again, important things to know with that as well too. Do another one, please?
Is retention rate important?
Ooh, is retention rate important?
Of course it is. And not that it means you can't leave after you get there. That you can go to a school and then decide it's not a good fit and transfer. That's absolutely fine. But it's kind of the opportunity to compare apples to apples and look at schools. It should not be a deciding factor, but it's certainly something to consider. I would also say not only retention rate, but graduation rate, and whether that's in 4, 5, or 6 years. Again, not a reason to not go. There's certain schools that may take a little bit longer, but just to know that piece, it's a data point.
Is there still a 4-year foreign language requirement?
Anybody have a 4-year? Some schools might. I know there are some more selective colleges that require the 4-year, so that's something we can definitely talk about if your list has those on there. But I would say overall, the majority of schools that I know are usually applying to only require the 2 years of a foreign language, of the same foreign language typically. And if you have an extension, then they'll honor that as well too. What do you think that? Pretty straightforward. Cool. Yes.
Does an applicant have to say colleges?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's, if the colleges are accepting the common application, it's universal. It's one essay that's on there. That being said, that's the main essay that every college accepting that common application will get. There could be colleges that have additional supplementals or other questions that they might ask. So that might be the individual that they have to go through. Do you guys, anybody have supplementals?
I would say with supplementals, I think that's so important that students also take enough time to research those supplement questions. The reason I say that is because a lot of times students will have the common app essay, and then they'll have the essay, and then before they submit, they're like, wait, I have a supplement, and then they just like come up with something, and you can tell right off the bat that the student probably submitted the supplement 5 minutes before they were submitting the application. So I think that is so important, specifically with supplements, that we take as much time to write, to kind of develop those, because we're also going to take a look at those in the same eye as we're looking at the regular essay.
Also, avoid cut and paste. So supplemental questions for UMass, or why UMass, why this major, why, tell me about your community. Why UMass, I hear because BU has an amazing business program every single year. Actually do. Do I look like a student? No. So I told you, if you make that mistake, no one here is going to fault you for it. Though there was one student who was really looking forward to being a mammoth, which is the mascot for Amherst College at UMass Amherst. We were a little concerned the person had a phytologist condition. But again, did not impact their application overall.
Do you have an honors college, and if so, what do you need to get into the college at your school, and what perks does it offer for those students?
Yeah, we do offer an honors program at Framingham. We are looking for a recalculated grade point average of 3.7, honors and AP courses, definitely during the year. Couple of perks that go along with that, we actually have an honors house on our campus. Students are able to register a little bit earlier. And we also have a couple of floors that are designated for our honors students. And of course, there is recognition at graduation. So definitely a few perks at Framingham. It does also come along with a scholarship if you are accepted into that program.
I mean, I think we all have honors programs. So one piece I always like to, when I talk to students about honors in college, is that it's different in college than it is in high school. Honors in college is creating a more enhanced academic experience. So regardless whether you take an honors, English Comp 101 course, or just a traditional English Comp 101 in college, both courses are going to be hard, right? College is meant to be more difficult. It's going to be rigorous, right? But what you might get different between that honors English Comp course and a regular college English Comp course is the honors course might be capped at a smaller number of students. So instead of being 25 students in a class, it might be 18. It might be taught a little bit differently where the faculty, it's more seminar style based. So the faculty, you're going to expect the students are coming prepared a little bit beyond what might just be minimally required of them in their readings or in their syllabus, right? To really kind of probe each other, challenge each other, ask questions kind of that go a little bit more into the material in depth. So we're thinking of a more enhanced experience. And there are also a lot of times other benefits to, like Shayna was referring. It could come with honors designated housing. It could come with different types of social trips. There's oftentimes honors, like special topics courses that are only available to honors students that might not be available to students that are not in the honors program. So regardless of whether you take honors or non-honors in college, you're going to get a quality or rigorous course. But honors in college is just more enhanced. Where in high school, I think when you think of honors or AP, it's more work. You tend to have to do more homework. That's not necessarily the case in college. It's about for students that are just looking for that more enhanced academic experience, students that might be more interested or motivated in getting engaged with undergraduate research, working along faculty members on independent studies. Some of those academic experiences that might not necessarily be required of a student, they could be available, but not necessarily required to a student that's not in the honors program. But oftentimes, the expectation is for students in an honors program is that they're going to want to present at conferences on research that they're working on. They're going to be, really excited about research opportunities or independent studies. So it's kind of those additional academic experiences that are really beneficial, but are available to you in an honors program, but doesn't necessarily mean the work is more challenging.
So Daria, you and I have talked about this before. When a student is applying and an application has a optional essay or short answer, something like this, optional, really optional?
So if it says optional, you should be doing it. I think that a lot of times, the reason that I say that why it's so important for you to do it is because there's a reason that that optional question is there. Is to give us a little bit more information about you. I think that is so important where students see that optional. They're like, should I do it? Should I not do it? I always encourage students to do it, spend some time, because then you're giving the institutions a little bit more content of who you are as a student. And a lot of times when we're looking at students as a whole, this is going to give us an opportunity to get to know you, the student, a little bit better, as we're kind of looking at, for example, the honors program. Okay, is the student going to be a good fit for this program? Or if we have some special programs, like when I was at Merrimack, we have the Compass and the Promise program, that we had that additional option that will place students on that program based on that additional information. So that's why it's also very important that when you're doing that you be very genuine and honest, because again, as we're looking at all that, there also might be different scholarship opportunities based on that optional piece. So I think that is very important, that if it says optional, treat it as I should be filling it out.
And the reason I like to bring that up as well, because we have many students that will come in and they'll feel that a school is either very likely or a safety style school for them, and they're like, oh, this is optional, I'm not going to do it. But it's one of those additional things that if it came down to it for some reason that you weren't, shoe in and it wasn't a specific likely school for you, that additional thing could be used. Right? Rachel was talking about how they go to committee and they might bring that information into it for a student who might need that. So it's just getting into the habit, right? You're here for a reason to learn these little kind of ins and outs. That's one definitely, make sure that you do. And it's something we'll help students through that process as well too. We had another one. Okay.
Now we're at does checking off a specific major impact your acceptance?
Joey?
So it honestly depends on the type of school. So there are schools out there that you are just applying for admission to the college or university regardless of your major, and then there are schools that manage sort of their admission process based upon the applicants that they're getting for specific programs. We're sort of a little bit of a hybrid at Worcester State. We students can opt to check off a major, and one of those majors is undeclared. So if you're not sure, you can just always choose the undeclared option. We also allow a lot of flexibility for students to change their major once they're at the university, with the one exception of our nursing program, which is a direct entry only program. So if you are thinking nursing, you need to apply to the nursing program in order to gain admission. You can't change your major into nursing at a later time. It's always easier to transfer out of nursing. It's nearly impossible to transfer in. So we're a little bit of a hybrid in terms of that process as it relates to admission. There are schools, though, I've worked at institutions that you have to apply to a specific college within the university and to a specific major, and then I've sat next to colleagues on panels that work at institutions that tend to be a little bit more liberal arts focused, where they don't want you to declare your major, they don't want you to apply to a major, you're just applying for admission to the university. So that is a question to be mindful of. And it's also okay too if you don't know exactly what you want to study, because I think all of our universities for the most part are equipped to not only work with students that are undeclared, but also provide them with enough flexibility to change their major as their higher institution as well, because you're going to be exposed to programs that you've never been exposed to part of your high school curriculum. So that academic exploration and sort of maturity is one of the things that I think we love about college experiences. So it depends. You probably need to ask, and I would say if you're thinking pharmacy program, nursing, engineering, business, computer science, architecture, physical therapy, occupational therapy, those are a lot of times some of the most selected majors because they're capped capacity, right? You only have so much room in a nursing simulation lab. You only have so many seats in a computer science program, where programs like English, history, maybe even biology, a little bit more flexibility with capacity. And sometimes the capacity is also linked to accrediting agencies. So like our occupational therapy program is accredited. We're capped, in order to ensure the standards within the program, they sort of cap the number of students that we can admit into our program based upon space, faculty, and to ensure good outcomes and clinical placements too as well. So it really depends on the program that you're thinking of applying it.
Rachel, we have a lot of students who apply to UMass Amherst and Eisenberg School. Can you talk just a little bit about that? And I know that last year or so it's changed.
That's okay, I'm sorry. So yes, at UMass Amherst, major matters. What you're applying to, our overall acceptance rate is about 55%. When you're looking at nursing, computer science, Eisenberg, you're looking more in the 20 to low 30s. You're looking at the liberal arts, then it's higher. You're looking at the 60 to 70% acceptance rate. Eisenberg, like the nursing program at Worcester State, and nursing program as well, is a closed major. You cannot transfer into it. The only internally. Though this is a great time to talk about community colleges and what an amazing opportunity that leads in terms of a pathway to our more competitive majors. So yes, major matters. Applying to Eisenberg is going to limit the number that we're able to admit. I would also say that in the last year or so, we've had to limit the number of minors that we can also allow for. That being said, talk to your admissions counselor, the guidance counselor as well. One of the big focuses we have at UMass right now is talking about different pathways to a business experience. Nursing, kinesiology, those sorts of things that require a license. There's a very set pathway. But when it comes to business and other opportunities, there are different pathways for students. What is really noteworthy for you here at Newburyport is that overall your acceptance rate is actually above average. And that's not because there's any special consideration, but it's because of the solid guidance that is being offered to students in terms of where they are applying and then receiving that guidance as well. So really connect not only with the guidance office, but also the individuals.
Shana, can you, because you've been at Framingham for a while now, and I'm sure you've seen many students transfer in, can you talk a little bit about that process and the master transfer process a little bit?
Absolutely. So the state of Massachusetts has really put a lot of emphasis on transfer between not only the community colleges, the state universities, but also with the UMass. So there are 3 tiers in Massachusetts, and like I said, the state has put a lot of money, a lot of resources into making it much easier for students to transfer. So I think what students need to hear is that we bring about 300 transfer students in every fall. So even though you may start somewhere, you may decide to transfer. And they're coming not only from community colleges, but also from other maybe state universities or private universities, but there is a lot for transfers. In terms of the community college pathway, I think, of course there is, there's so much pressure, going to school, where you're going. And sometimes students just need to really take a minute and figure out what is it that they want to do, right? Maybe moving away isn't, your aspiration. Maybe you want another year to really kind of ground a little bit and really figure out what it is that you want to do. So I think, the community college is a great route for students to start at the community college, take some courses, may consider actually staying at the community college and participate in mass transfer, where students can stay at a community college for 2 years and actually transfer to one of the state universities or UMasses with certain grade point averages. You're actually going to get a tuition break. So it's a great benefit in terms of financially in order to start, to start at those community colleges, taking those courses and having those courses automatically transfer. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions with students is that they're going to lose courses if they start at the community college. If you work with your advisors at the community college and maybe, if you know that you want to transfer to Framingham State or Worcester State, we all have designated counselors in our offices that work very specifically with transfer students, that we can really create a path for you. And we can tell you what courses are going to transfer into the exact program at Framingham or at Worcester. Our nursing program actually is an RN to a BS in nursing, so you have to actually go to a community college first, receive your RN, and then come to Framingham for your bachelor's in nursing. But I will say this mass transfer program, a lot of students are taking advantage of it because, again, I think just financially, students are saving a lot, and then, graduating at the state universities and then going on for masters. So it really is such a great cost savings.
Thank you. And I think if you guys heard what Brian was talking about earlier, there's schools that are $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year. It's such an awesome benefit that we have here in Massachusetts. Just do only a year, just APs, get those things out of the way. Maybe you only have 1 year to do or a year and a half. Or even if you do the 2 years, it's 2 years at such a lower cost. And yes, you have to, travel back and forth, and it's not as in-depth of a campus, but we're very lucky that we have Northern Essex Community College as kind of our partner in our backyard. They have pretty much a feel of like being on a small campus. They have sports, they have all sorts of things going on. You just don't really care. So great value. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah. We have one more. Does it affect an application if a student is an A+ student that is only taking college prep classes instead of challenging themselves with AP or honors classes to you guys?
I mean, I will say, so a lot of counselors will read by territory, so we hear us talking about, get in contact with your counselor, right? A lot of counselors are reading by territory. So the counselors become very familiar with the curriculum at the high schools. And as Joe spoke a little bit earlier, just about, challenging yourself appropriately. I don't know how many times they say that on a panel each year. But if you are at an A, you're taking, say, the math curriculum and you're at an A+, but we know that high school is offering honors and AP courses, we may pause and say, why aren't they challenging themselves and taking that honors course, right? As we talked about before, college is hard, right? It is going to be a lot more challenging than high school. It's going to be very different. So we want to make sure that you're able, to keep up with that rigor. So again, if you're able to take that honors course, and I've seen, dozens and dozens of transcripts. I've seen students who started out in the college prep course, gone to an honors course, challenged themselves, haven't done that well, and then went back to the college prep course. And I know what's going on there, right? They challenged themselves. I give that student credit for taking, that risk and challenging themselves. But if they didn't do well in it, I commend them for going back to the college prep course, right? And not continuing on with honors. Clearly that was a little too challenging for them. I know honors and AP are offered. So if you are a straight A student and you're not challenging yourself, we are going to notice that. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in.
No, absolutely agree. I would say that we are also, as professionals, mindful and really, especially in the last few years, cognizant of mental health and well-being. We want our students to not push themselves to the point that they are really endangering their own well-being. I also find it interesting in terms of picking courses based on what you know your grade is going to be. Because that would be, I would like to be able to only sign up for courses that I know. Is it that life comes at you? And so yeah, sure, if you could take just college prep courses and get an A plus in those, that would be a weighted recalculated GPA of 4.3. That's fantastic. That's awesome. But there's no such certainties. So make the best decisions on it.
Thanks. All right, we had another question.
Yeah, but student decides to take the process.
Yeah, and I will say that one of the things that we try to talk with our students here about is if they're deciding to, and we'll talk about what that means, like taking a year off to take a gap year and travel and save money, are they taking a year off to, actually take a few community college classes and get their grades up, so we talk about what does that actually mean, but we typically, if I know students going to do a gap year or take that year off and not go to school, we'll kind of say like, it makes more sense while we're here and working on this, let's get your applications in now, and then defer for that year or semester. And then they'll work with the colleges, admissions office to say, hey, I deferred, I now, it's this time after they've graduated in January, February, and then making their decisions from there. Anybody additional?
Because one thing I always like to say is that every single student is going to have a completely different path. Like students can't be comparing, like, oh, Samantha's going and doing this, Joe's doing that, I'm doing this. Everybody's gonna have a completely different path, so students do decide to take a gap year, that's okay, we understand it, because at the end of the day, every single student is gonna go through life at their own little path. So I think that what's important is that the students figure out exactly what is it that they wanna do, and then figure out what pathways they're gonna take.
We have time for one more question, anybody? Well, I want to just keep us on time, as most of you guys all worked all day, and you're sitting here, and these guys worked all day, and they're sitting up here and doing us a huge favor. So I just want to give them a big round of applause. Thank you guys so much for spending time with us. But as I said, this is recorded. I'll get the recording out. I'll throw everything on the website. I'll give everyone's emails and contact information as well. So thank you so much for coming out tonight, guys. Safe travels home, and if you have any questions, please just let us know. Thanks so much for coming.